Welcome to Between Two Molars, an open conversation of the wins, setbacks, and messy middle of business ownership. A new kind of podcast that pulls back the curtain. No fluff, real conversations, real lessons, and the real life of running an orthodontic practice. So sit back between two molars and let's get into it. Welcome to Between Two Molars, the space where real orthodontic conversations happen.
I'm Diana Weaver.
And I'm Michelle Shimmin. Together, we're diving into the real-life challenges, wins, and wisdom from inside orthodontic practices.
Time to talk between two molars.
And today, we are talking to you, the female orthodontic business owners. We're going to talk about how leadership styles differ and why empathy, collaboration, and culture building can actually be a competitive advantage in building your practice. But we're also going to talk about what some of those difficulties can show up and how the difficulties are brought with that type of leadership style. Because female business owners, we understand that there are different challenges that you face. And so let's dive into what those are and provide some great pearls and insight for how to overcome some of those challenges just by simply understanding them and recognizing them.
I think where we start is what the core personality style, the business mentality of a female business owner, say business owner versus a male business owner. Female business owners, I can share very confidently, as we are female business owners with experience, we tend to lead relationally, which can be really great. So the relationships that we create with our patients create a wonderful patient experience. With our team, can cultivate a strong team culture. With the community, you can really see an enhancement with the community people or the people in your community wanting to come to you because you have this relationship, you have this empathy, it builds this trust. There's also some downsides to that. Oftentimes we can see that there's some lines that are maybe blurred with that authority level of I'm your friend, but I'm also your mentor, or I'm also your boss or your leader in this business.
And historically, in an industry, this is shifting very, very quickly, but historically, it's been a male-dominated industry with more orthodontists being male. And if you look at that shift now, I've worked with a number of the universities with all female residents in the classes. So it's definitely shifting, and that's really great, really exciting. But that relational piece of business ownership can really make it easier for those lines to be blurred and to cross those lines. And then when you think about when you have to be firm and you have to be strong, how is that interpreted? And how is that looked at differently than your male counterpart, which is a little bit oftentimes more expected? So that relational piece with how women have a tendency to communicate relationally builds great trust, because that's what we're in a relationship building industry. So that has a tendency to be a lot more natural for the female orthodontist. Obviously, men, there's a lot of great male orthodontists out there that, do this really, really well. But just intrinsically, female orthodontists come by this more naturally. And so as a boss, as an employer, as a business owner, that empathy and that natural ability for collaboration and active listening builds the trust that you were just referencing, that can really expand on our reputation in the community, allows patients to very quickly and easily trust you also as an orthodontist. But let's talk a little bit about crossing those lines and how we blur that in business ownership with our team members. What can we do differently that will arm us better to maximize what our intrinsic strengths are, but to really minimize those areas of speed bumps?
So I'm going to share my own experience as coming on with Shimmin, 9 years ago now, or 8 or 9 years ago now. I'm very proud. We have a very strong friendship. You're a very relational female business owner, And you hold our team accountable in a way that we feel non-threatened. We feel and seek it out as feedback. I'll never forget you kind of elbowing me once and going, Diana, you can't smile during this conversation.
Smiling's my favorite.
Right,
You said.
smiling is my favorite. But it was a realization that you can be my friend, you can be very relational, and you can put that business owner hat back on, and you can hold team members accountable as well. That's a very strong skill set that you have. I'm proud of, but I am also proud that we can deliver that skill set to our female practice owners that we support through our clients as well.
What the skills that you're talking about and that are absolutely imperative to this are to remove emotions and feelings during those conversations, and you're circling back to the agreements that you've made with your team members around their roles, their responsibilities, their job descriptions, their daily, weekly, monthly, their specific benchmarks and key performance indicators that should absolutely be laid out and discussed and agreed upon. And then when we have that framework, it is much easier to remove feelings, to remove perceptions or interpretations, and sit down and just simply discuss if in fact the team member is delivering on what those agreements are. And that's a really powerful skill set for a female orthodontist to develop. Where we see a lot of disconnect, a lot of breakdown, a lot of resentment between female doctors and team members is when too much emotion is brought into. So that's what we just got talking about, how valuable and great that emotional connection and that relational conversing with our patients and team members, the benefit that brings. But we have to be able to understand when to shift into more of a loving our team members enough to support their compliance with the agreements that we've made together around their role and their position, and to remove all of the emotions and all of the feelings that can be charged in those conversations.
So that's easier said than done, I would say. My feedback and my feelings are you almost have to pepper those conversations in naturally. When you have those difficult conversations, I don't want this to be a surprise for team members. I want it to be, okay, we've talked about this, we've had to escalate the situation, and now we're having stronger conversations on these agreements, but this shouldn't ever be a surprise for the team members to hear this for the first time, because we've had those conversations peppered in with our fun. How'd you do? What'd you do this weekend? Great, let's do this. And then different points of the day, we might be addressing non-confrontationally, but very open and transparent conversations on, okay, can we pivot this way, or can we do things this way, or can we use this verbiage? But as long as you have a good balance, I think, in between the two conversations, when you have to have those more challenging conversations, it's not a, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting this.
And I'm actually going to challenge the female orthodontist joining us today to come at those conversations with a sense of humility. Humility is something that allows your team members to live in a safe space. If we come at it, which we see often, where female orthodontists have to feel like they have to exert a lot of their authority to have others around them listen to them, take them seriously, understand their authority. But really, that's not what it is about. When you can come at a conversation with humility, you are ultimately the boss, the business owner. You have ultimate control over the people and the business. That's it, without question. And how can we take that role and have a very effective development conversation with our team members that is still somewhat of a safe place for them to not feel defensive and have a breakdown in this conversation and in this process. And so, doctors, I don't want you to feel threatened as a female orthodontist and to feel like you have to exert a lot of this strong authority because that's what people will listen to. There's tremendous value in your relational communication, in your empathy, in your openness to collaboration. There's tremendous value in that we've just talked about and referenced. And right now we want to arm you to know how to shift from that and not being too soft, too, open to letting team members walk all over you and bring too much emotion to the conversation or to the table, because that's really where we lose control. Mm-hmm. We lose control. But I do also want to bring up that it is okay. I want to validate. It's okay to ask for more time. If a team member comes up and says, I've got a problem, or I'm unhappy about this, or I have this specific need, and it's not something that you as a female orthodontist have time or bandwidth to address it with intention, it's okay to ask for some time. Can we revisit this tonight at 5:00? Can I think about a great solution or a solution that works for you? And can we revisit this tomorrow at lunchtime or at 10:00? Set a time frame and then commit to fulfilling that time frame. But give yourself permission to be able to step away from it for a moment and be very purposeful and intentional with your solution, with your guidelines, your bumpers that you are going to have in place as well.
Well, that also cultivates a level of respect for the team members. They know that you're not going to be just reactive in this moment, that you're taking a moment, you're taking some time to chew on it, to think about it, to generate a good win-win, hopefully, for both of you, or to have an intentional conversation about that. That's very respectful for a team member. A team member can respect that, I hope, that sense of pause in that moment. It also cultivates trust with the team members. Okay, I'm trusting that my doctor's not just going to spew out anger or reactiveness to something that I'm sharing, that they're really, again, intentionally taking some time to think about a good solution for me.
That word intentional is really powerful with this topic. This is a really funny pearl, but I really believe deeply in this. And I feel like this one simple little change or shift can really shift and pivot a level of accountability and clear communication from doctor to team members. But doctor, if you're going to send an email to a number of team members and you're requesting something to happen, it's imperative that you address that email by name. Don't just start the email and say, hey, I really want this marketing to be completed by next week. Please make sure that all the deliveries are done over lunch every day next week. It is imperative that you put a name on that, because that will allow a team member to be held to a much higher level of accountability. And that's where we also have a direction to go if something isn't done and done the way we want it done. I see so many times an email will just be sent to multiple different team members and say, hey, I need this, this, and this done. And it's really, really easy to do this, right?
Right.
And there is no one person that's taking responsibility and held accountable to that. So
because they don't know.
Pearl.
They don't know who is supposed to be accountable for this. If there's multiple team members on that email, if there's multiple tasks on the email, assign which tasks goes to which team member. Otherwise, nobody does it because nobody knows.
That's right. Yeah, excellent. So there is definitely a culture advantage as well for practices that are led with empathy, because we've talked about how it can build that stronger experience and stronger referrals, because patients genuinely feel cared for, not just treated, but they are far more likely to trust, stay, and refer others. Now, that is a statement around patients, but that can very easily be translated to team members as well. Active listening is imperative. Non-reactive responses to situations really elevate your authority as an emotionally intelligent, experienced, and wise female business owner. Female business ownership, and I'm excited, we have another segment specifically on this, but female business ownership has a lot of components that can be challenging. And one of them is balancing, and I'm going to say work life. You have a really great phrase. What is it?
Work-life alliance.
Alliance. I think that's a really powerful statement, because that work-life alliance, for with females can be very, very different, because there can also be a lot of added outside guilt that comes to it as well. And so we're really trying to balance everything pulling on us in a lot of different directions. And one of them, for those of you that have responsibilities outside of your business, those of you that have children, it really can be a struggle to find that alliance with
or hobbies.
Your hobbies are important. We've talked a lot about that as well. But I remember, and to this day, I cannot walk through the Chicago airport without walking by this specific pillar. My kids are grown and out of the house, but when they were in school, and I was doing so much traveling, very, a successful business owner, doing really well, helping to support other business owners. But there was such a tug and a mom guilt that I struggled with. And I would do everything I could to be home by the Friday night football games. And inevitably, especially through the Chicago airport, inevitably there's missed flights and there's canceled flights. And I missed the last football game that both of my boys played on the football field together. And to this day, this is something that, really
you still remember.
Affects me. I remember that. And I was sobbing on this pillar, by this pillar in the Chicago airport, and really struggling in finding that alliance between really all those responsibilities outside of business ownership, and how can you be successful and balance both? And that's a struggle. And I have found, thank you for the compliment earlier, but I have struggled and found times that hopefully I can use to continually grow through, where reaction and emotions will really bubble over in responses to work situations. And when I have responded reactively, like you said earlier, we want to minimize the reactive responses, I look back at those times, and when I'm reacting without intention, without purpose and structure behind it, it's ineffective. It's very, very ineffective. And I lose respect from the team members that I'm communicating with, and I don't accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish in developing and or holding those team members accountable. Whereas if I can step back, remove that emotional response, be very intentional and very purposeful with the structure behind the communication and the response, and go back to those written down expectations. Again, we're removing interpretation, we're removing perception, because every person is going to have a different interpretation and perception around something. That's why it's so important to put framework and structure and actually write down very clearly what the expectations are around it, because then we can revisit that and hold people accountable, redirect them without having that emotional responsive conversation.
Well, it's awareness. It's awareness. It's a confidence in who you are as a business owner, that I can be a friend, but I know not to blur the lines.
I love that confidence. It's confidence as a business owner. I think
and it's trust. So to build trust with your team, loyalty with your team, when you do have the bubble up situations, if you have those strong bonds and those strong relationships and you're leading with empathy, your team can also say, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of grace and understanding in these moments as well.
Yeah, because we all have that.
We all have that.
And it's, we talk about leading by example all the time. How do we want our team members to respond in conversations? We want them to be very intentional and very purposeful in their conversations, in their accountability. We really want to elevate the emotional intelligence throughout our practice with ourselves.
Humility is a word that just came to mind.
Yep.
Humility in female business ownership, female business owners, if you can lead with a level of humility, then your team will follow suit as well. They can grow that level of emotional intelligence in that area.
And it builds trust for a safer space. But I am going to say humility in leadership and business ownership does not abdicate authority or accountability. Those two can live simultaneously with each other. And that is an environment that can truly build trust and develop the team members. So thank you so much for tuning in on this very important conversation as we specifically focused on female orthodontists and business owners today. We would absolutely love you to drop a comment on an example or a situation that feel that you have experienced, that you've been successful at, or that you have any questions on. We're here to support you. But until next time, between two molars.
Thanks for tuning in from our chair to yours. See you next time.